Hello there, welcome to part 2 all about makeup brushes. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you a few details about each of the major brands of brushes that I own so that you can maybe better decide which one might be better for you. Now, if you missed my first part, I will link that down below because I shared with you my top 20 brushes I would run out and buy if I lost all of my makeup brushes. So check out that video if you've not already seen it. But if you've seen it, then you know that in that list of 20, there were quite a variety of brands. So let's just jump right on in here. And I'm going to start off with the brand of Sigma Beauty. I'm starting off here because Sigma brushes were the first set of high-end brushes that I ever purchased. And I feel pretty confident in saying that I bought these brushes probably in 2010. The company was started in 2009, and the story is actually on their website. You should check it out because it's very detailed. It was founded by a husband and wife team. The wife was a veterinarian, and the husband was a civil engineer. They were living in Brazil, and through the course of events, they did come to the US, and she gained her PhD in infectious diseases. And somehow along the way, she noticed kind of this big gap in the beauty industry of having really quality makeup brushes that were also affordable. So she and her husband together have combined their brain efforts, their experiences, and they developed Sigma brushes. Their first set of eye brushes sold out immediately. And I remember I was new to YouTube watching, and I bought the eye brushes, the first set of eye brushes that they made. That was my first set of high-end brushes. And I still to this day have brushes from that original set. So we're going on 14 years possibly, because I think it was 2010 when I bought my first set, and they're still intact. Nothing has come apart. The bristles have not shed. And the reason for that is they developed a couple of really unique technologies that they put into their brushes. So the first really important thing that they did is their brushes are waterproof. What does that mean? In order to explain this, we need to know the parts of a brush. So brush handle, ferrule, and then your actual brush, okay? The brush hairs. All of their brushes are cruelty-free. They are synthetic fibers. They developed this special way of attaching the ferrule to the handle through this screw type technology that makes this completely sealed. So as you will see, and you've probably heard people talking about, when you wash your makeup brushes, you're not supposed to get water above the ferrule because it can seep in here. Most brush companies rely on super heavy duty glue to glue this on, not Sigma. So that was the first part of their technology. Also, their handles are made out of, I think it's a polymer type product that is also waterproof, and they advertise them as unbreakable. So they're so heavy duty. They have a special threading technology for all of their brushes. And this ferrule part is the last part of their amazing technology, is they use a specific metal alloy that is corrosion resistant. And so again, as you can see on this brush that I've had for 14 years, there is no rust showing there. It's still shiny, and that is due to the special type of metal they use here. So super, super high quality. Then the next thing they've become very famous for is developing very unique shapes to their brushes. Now, the F80 was actually one of the first brushes of its kind, and it kind of revolutionized the way that we all apply foundation, believe it or not. And I can't remember what year this came out, but Dr. Xavier, the wife of the founding partner to duo, she developed this, and it really transformed the way that we would think about applying foundation. Before that, it was kind of pretty much with a paddle brush or your fingers. And this created the idea that you could buff in your foundation. But then they've come up with things like this crazy brush. So they have really unique kind of shapes to their brushes, but they all have purposes. And believe it or not, this is a great foundation brush. Gets into all those crevices in the nose. You can get up actually under the eye if you want to. So there are reasons for all of the various brush designs that they have. Now they routinely do, if you've ever checked their website, you may see different colors of brushes. And so they routinely do collections, a lot of collections and collaborations with like Disney movies and stuff. So this is from their recent collaboration, The Little Mermaid. So these are their brushes that are in their regular line, but they just have special edition packaging. And let me just tell you, they go all out. They're all into detail. I mean, they have like engraving on the ferrule. I mean, the colors are gorgeous. And again, because of how they are made, they're going to stay looking like this for years and years to come. Now, a little side note to Sigma, and if you saw my first video, then you will have seen me using one of my favorite Sigma eyeshadow palettes. Sigma not only has amazing makeup brushes, but they also have basically a full face of makeup products. And I don't love all of their makeup products, but they actually make one of my favorite eyeshadow formulas. I have so many of their eyeshadow palettes. I mean, they're just all over the place. I love them. So the great thing is if you're shopping for brushes, you could also pick up eyeshadow palette. They have great lipsticks, just lots of different makeup items as well. Now, a couple of Sigma brushes that if you were looking to stick with one brand and just purchase from Sigma and you wanted to kind of have some alternatives to ones that I showed you from BK Beauty or whatever, a couple of brushes that I absolutely love that would be great alternatives are several of these from this new line that they've come out with. So this one, which is the F48, this is the soft coverage one. And this brush is beautiful. It has that gentle angle slope. It's super dense, so it would allow you to really buff in your foundation, really get a nice diffused look. But because it's dense, you could also go back and pack on the coverage. The F11, which is the soft sculpt, this is a very similar shape to the BK Beauty 107, just slightly smaller, but this is fantastic for cream contour if you want to sculpt out your cheeks, your nose, hairline. Also, the angled version, the F43 Soft Angled Cheek, and all of these brushes actually I think come in a set too. That makes it easier. But this one is great if you want to apply cream bronzer. Also, you can use it to blend out contour. You could use this for cream blush, but you would just have to be real careful. I would actually use this to blend on the back of my hand and then tap into your cheek. But very dense, super soft, angled brush. And then, of course, they have their version. This is the F08 Precision Powder brush is what they have labeled it as. But again, I would actually use this for cream liquid highlighter. You could use this, I guess you could use it to precisely, you know, set your under eye with powder, but I would use this more for cream products, tops of the cheeks. You could also use this to diffuse a cream blush on your cheek as well. The brush that I used for a long time for powder contour before I got the one from Rephr is the F05, and this is actually a contour brush. This is round, but it's small, and so it allows me to easily buff that powder contour into the hollows of the cheek. I would not use this for cream products, but great for powder contour. So those are some alternatives to some of those face brushes that I was using from other brands, but their eye brushes are all fantastic. They do have a couple of different sizes of blending brushes. So the E35 is similar to the Morphe one. It just doesn't have quite as much of a gentle kind of gradation on the sides, but a fantastic blending brush through the crease. And then they also have a couple of variations of kind of more of that pinched blending brush. So again, I feel like they have the biggest, widest offering of sizes of brushes. So depending on how large your eye is or how much detail work you want to do, they have lots of various options. They do also sell a lot of sets of brushes. They sell their brushes individually. One thing I'll tell you as we go through is kind of what their sales are. I do have discount codes for almost all of these brush brands, including Sigma. I'll leave those codes and everything down below, but they also are a brand that does fantastic sales around Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So start your list now. If Sigma is the brand that you're gonna focus on, start your list now and plan to do some sale shopping soon. The next brush brand we're gonna talk about is BK Beauty. And this was kind of the next brush brand that I purchased the whole set, and then they so generously sent me another grouping of brushes, and they have sent me several since. And BK Beauty was started by makeup artist Lisa J, who actually has a YouTube channel here, but she was a makeup artist long before that. And her intent in starting this was not only to create really good quality brushes in some unique designs, but also with her company to help donate to good causes around and to also help promote the idea of beauty in kindness. Now, the BK of BK Beauty has twofold meaning. The B and the K are the first initials of her two daughters' names, but also beauty and kindness. And so she just kind of wants to promote that idea that we all should be working on our inner beauty as well in how we interact with others in kindness. So I love that philosophy. I love Lisa J. She's just a sweetheart. And she has continued to grow her business. So within the brushes that I showed you, my top 20s, you're gonna see a couple of different variations. So she's done some collaborations. So she created her initial line, and then she did a collaboration with Angie, Hot and Flashy, and with Nikki LaRose. So her brushes, the numbering system kind of tells you something about those brushes. So the brushes that just start with a number, for example, the 103, those are from the original line with the burgundy handle. The brushes that start with an A are from the Angie Hot and Flashy. So Angie Hot and Flashy worked with Lisa J and to create some specific brushes that she wanted. And then Nikki LaRose, the brushes that start with N are Nikki LaRose brushes. Hers have a black handle and ferrule, and the Angie Hot and Flashy have the grayish blue with the silver. Now, these are super high quality brushes. The weight of the brushes compared to a Sigma brush, they are lighter weight and the handles are slightly shorter. The ferrule, the metal portion of the brush, it started off a little more gold, I think, but has faded to kind of a silver color. But the writing and the imprint has actually held up really well. I've had these brushes for over 4 years, I believe, since they were first released. And they've held up well, they wash well. Again, cruelty-free. These are synthetic fiber, but they feel more like a natural bristle. So they can work with powders or creams, as I showed in that video. So I use this one for creams, this one for powders. They wash well, have held up really well. I've only had, I think, one brush that did some crazy shedding and they replaced it for me for free. So they stand behind their brushes and they have held together well. The handles have not come loose. So they are overall very well made brushes. And the shapes of her brushes, I feel like, is where she shines. She has developed some unique shapes to her brushes, like the 101. This just really kind of, I think, re-energized the beauty community, and these makeup brush companies are like, I think she's onto something. And when Angie Hot and Flashy helped coordinate the creation of this brush, likewise, you'll see this brush shape with a lot of different brands. Now, in the regular BK line, as I was talking about the distinction of how you can tell whether it's a collaboration or from the original line, from the number is also going to indicate whether it's an eye brush or a face brush, and that is by the 2 or the 1. So the eye brushes start with a 2 and the face brushes start with a 1. So that's kind of nice. And again, I'm telling you this information because in my tutorials, I'm calling out brush numbers, and some of you get really overwhelmed by that. Don't be overwhelmed. 2, eye, 1, face. So, and then also she does, even though her line in general is smaller than the Sigma line, she does still have some different offerings of shapes and sizes depending on your eye shape and size. Angie Hot and Flashy, she did create some smaller sized versions of some of the BK Beauty brushes because she said, you know, she felt like in general, a lot of mature ladies have smaller eyes, and so they want to have a little more control with their brushes and their eyeshadow application. So that is something to keep in mind. And a couple of alternative brushes. So an alternative to my Morphe M504 in this line would be the 201. So this brush is the best for blending that they offer. It is a little more kind of blunt cut, kind of like the Sigma one is. And it's a little more, there's a little more give in these bristles than with the Morphe. But you are able to get a really nice blend kind of above the crease. The other brush that I used and loved until I got my Rephr brush that replaced it is this one. This is the 206. And this would have been in my top 20 had I not tried the Rephr one. So this one, again, that pinched with the kind of fluffy end. This is fantastic for adding a little more pigment and blending an outer corner through the crease. Now, in general, I feel like Lisa J put together some really good sets. So you can get a full face set of brushes, or you can buy the brushes individually, or you can do like an eye set or just a face set. And I feel like she did a pretty good job of the brushes that she put in there. So if you want to just buy a whole set and start with, she has most of my favorites in there, but I do still think you have to buy certain brushes like this one separate and possibly the 204. But that aside, they also, I do have a discount code with BK Beauty. They also routinely do sales throughout the year. Their Black Friday and Cyber Monday sale is not quite as good as Sigma's is, but they do still offer a little more percentage off. So be sure you shop there. Their brushes are also available now on Amazon. Not all of them, but some of them are. So sometimes people like that ease of shopping through them. But all in all, great brush company. They stand behind their brushes. They have great customer service and very fast in their shipping. So I've really enjoyed BK Beauty brushes, and I do highly recommend them. The next main brush brand that I want to talk about is Rephr. It's R-E-P-H-R. If you're not familiar at all with this brand, neither was I until a little over a year ago. They graciously sent me their first kind of full set of brushes. And I had kind of toyed with the idea of trying them off and on, but I was kind of confused about them, not sure what type of bristles they were or how good they would be. I also was confused about their concept store, so I just never purchased them until they sent them to me. And then I realized why everybody who tries them loves them so much. So Rephr brushes, let me just show you a few of them. If you saw my first video, you saw lots of them up here. So what makes Rephr brushes unique? Their bristles are actually made from uncut, undyed goat hairs. So these are natural bristle brushes, but before you go crazy, the hair is sourced cruelty-free. So you don't have to worry about animals getting harmed or hurt in the process. But these are actually handcrafted in Kumano, Japan. And the ferrule is a matte black ferrule, which I appreciate because for whatever reason, they look cleaner, longer than the shiny ones. They're not going to show fingerprints or anything. The ferrule is also matte black. So it's kind of this unique kind of seamless look to them. I actually have had, I think there was maybe one or two brushes that I might have had one or two hairs shed, but other than that, I've had no shedding. I have had no loosening of handles or ferrules. And despite the fact that this is goat hair, this is one of the highest quality types of goat hairs that is super soft. Also, another reason why a lot of brush companies veer away from natural bristle brush hairs and they go to synthetic is because sometimes natural bristle hairs can be harder to wash and keep clean. But I have not had that issue at all with the Rephr brushes. I mean, they wash up completely clean. I don't know how they do it, but somehow that quality of hair does wash up nicely. Now, again, super, super soft bristles. So nothing scratchy about these at all. So that's the first thing to note. Their numbering system is basically they started at 1 and have gone up into the 30s. And then they have also kind of done a couple of variations on those numbers. Like for example, they came up with a set of larger versions of those regular brushes. So instead of just the 15 brush, this is the 15 Max. They also came out with a 15 Mini. So they have come out with some various sizes, and they have a plethora of sizes and shapes, especially in their eye brushes. So I feel like they really excel in lots of different brush shapes and sizes for the eyes. The one area that I feel like they're lacking, and they're still kind of playing around with some synthetic brush bristles. They're testing those out. I'll talk about how that's done in a moment. But I have not actually found a Rephr brush that I love for liquid foundation. I love their brushes for every other part of my makeup, but for whatever reason, I just haven't found a brush that they make that works well for me just yet for liquid foundation. Now, as I mentioned, they have a unique way of creating new brushes. And what that is they use crowdsourcing to help develop and refine their brushes. So what does that mean? They actually have something called a concept store. So when they are developing a new brush type, a new brush set or shape or whatever, they will put it in their concept store at a greatly reduced price. Most times it's around 50% off. And all they ask if you buy a brush from the concept store is they ask you to provide feedback on how you like that brush, what you like about it. And I've heard from somebody that said, oh, that survey takes forever. It's like 45 minutes. But then my best friend did it. She's like, it took like 5 minutes. So if you're willing to provide a little bit of feedback and you want to help them develop better brushes and just provide feedback, that is the place you can start. Now, not all brushes are available there anymore because they've shifted the ones that were a success to their main line. Now, I don't have a discount code for them. I do have an affiliate link. I'll link that down below. But they do periodically throughout the year run really good sales. And last year, they had a fantastic year-end sale from, I think, November and December. And I believe it was around 50% off their entire site. So keep an eye out for that. But all in all, I've been super impressed. The quality, the craftsmanship, the softness, and how they wash up. I do love the Rephr brushes. Now they occasionally, like at this time of year, they have some special edition brushes that they do, like this one that has like Japanese maple flowers or something on here, Japanese blossoms. Beautiful, beautiful, but they are a little pricey. So just putting that out there, if you want the special edition brushes, or some of these large brushes are really expensive. But I feel like where they excel are more in those eye brush sets and some of the face brush sets. So if you are interested in this particular brand, I would wait for a sale or maybe look at some of those sets or the concept store to shop. But overall, they are fantastic brushes, and just a difference between a natural bristle brush and a synthetic brush. The way that it picks up pigment is different. So a natural bristle brush is actually going to pick up more pigment and carry more pigment to your eye or your face than a synthetic brush. So what is great about that is if you're working with maybe less quality shadows or less quality blush or just something that's not very pigmented, if you go in with a natural bristle brush, so hard to say, then you are going to get a lot more pigment transfer, but they still blend well, they work well. So again, another one of my absolute top favorite brush brands. The final two brush brands that I want to talk about are more in the affordable category. One is Morphe, the other is Real Techniques. Now, with that, I love these brush brands, but they both do a lot of limited edition sets. They do very different kind of brush shapes occasionally, and then they sell out, and then they do something totally different. So it's a little harder for me to actually put together a full face of each one of these sets. And in my personal collection, I don't have a full set of brushes from them. The closest I would say is probably Real Techniques. So let's start there. Real Techniques was started by two makeup artists that are sisters, and they had a YouTube channel here for years. I think the one sister has carried on, but I watched them way back in my early YouTube days, and you may have seen them at Target, Walmart, Ulta. They also sell some on Amazon. They used to have their own website. I think they do still. But I really love these brushes. They are quality brushes at a drugstore, affordable price, and many times Ulta will even have them marked down maybe 30 or 40% off. So you can really get these brushes at a great deal. And they are really high quality. So in general, their brushes are made, they have kind of more of an aluminum ferrule, and then they have a rubberized bottom. Now, thankfully, through the years, they have continued to develop these brushes a little more quality. My first brushes I had from them, the brushes were all still intact, but this part got really sticky and gross. And no matter what I did, I couldn't get that stickiness away. So I ended up having to throw away a few of those brushes. But now they've put on kind of a different type of feel down here. So no more stickiness. But what's unique about this is you can see the ferrule of the brush is quite long. So this helps prevent the issue of water getting into the ferrule and loosening the glue that's holding the brushes intact. Also, I feel like they must use longer bristles in here than your typical brush, because when I wash, especially the bigger face brushes, it's kind of like there's a lot of soap that kind of gets up in there, and it takes quite a lot to get that soap and everything rinsed off. But that being said, they wash well, all synthetic fibers, super soft. And this is one of their newest versions of a face brush. Does this remind you of anything? Yes, it's very similar. It's a smaller, obviously not quite as dense as the BK Beauty, but this one is actually called their Seamless Complexion Brush. All of their brushes just have a name, no numbers. And I think that's helpful, especially if you're new starting out. And that was kind of what they wanted to do, is give you some general direction of what they created the brush for. So Seamless Complexion, so you can use this for applying foundation. I love this for using with my Reishi Mushroom Foundation. It's also the perfect shape. It's a little bit bigger, but same shape as some of these other smaller brushes like from Sigma or BK Beauty. Great for, you can use this for cream kind of bronzer, tops of the cheek, or highlighter. So really great brush. I believe this is under $10. Another one they came out with is the Tapered Cheek Brush. And you can see this is kind of slightly pinched. Again, kind of reminds me a little bit of a smaller version of the BK Beauty brush. So I have loved using this in the same way as a cream contour type of brush. Their eye brushes, again, their eye brushes come pretty much in sets. I don't believe you can buy their eye brushes individually. This eye brush set has a couple of other brushes that came with it. I have them somewhere, but I just pulled out a few. So you can see they have a very small, usable kind of liner brush. It's angled. This is a really good one for brows, or if you're using kind of a gel liner or something like that, if you're using a wet liner, liquid liner. This is great. I don't love this as much under the lash line because I do feel like it just ends up feeling a little prickly. But they do also have a small smudger brush. Again, not quite as soft as the BK Beauty one. It doesn't have quite the rounded edge on the top, but you can use this in the same way. This wonderful blender brush. I love this for like cream shadow sticks or cream shadows that you want to blend. And then their concealer brush is actually one of my favorites. I use this on clients all the time. It's really nice and soft, and it allows you to kind of get really close in the inner corner if you're somebody who's trying to not get your concealer all over your face, this is a great one to help you kind of get it pinpointed, and you can do a little soft blending. It's super, super soft bristles. So I love Real Techniques. I just wish that they would be maybe a little more consistent with some of the brushes that they come out with in special edition packaging. Like this special edition set, again, it came with a couple of others. I loved these brushes. And by the time I created a video using these brushes, you couldn't even get them anymore. So I wish that if they were gonna do special edition, maybe it was just the handles and not the actual shape of the brush. So they do have a lot to offer at an affordable price, but you might not be able to get exactly the brush shape that you want, but you could get something pretty close. So if you're just starting out, you want the most affordable brush set out there that's still great quality, check out Real Techniques. Now the other brand, Morphe, it's funny, I have had these brushes forever, and these were some of my absolute favorites. Now Morphe is another one that has all kinds of crazy different options. They have several different brush sets, and then they have individual brushes. And Morphe, for the most part, you're gonna buy them from Ulta or on their website. I don't know if you can get them on Amazon or not. I've never bought them there. But I did years ago actually visit the Morphe store that was in the LA area. My best friend and I went out there. I think we've gone twice. And it was a little overwhelming because they had so many different brush bristle options out there. And then even in their synthetic line, it was hard to just know, okay, what is the difference between them? So they do have brush sets available that you can buy kind of a full face. Again, some of those brush shapes you might not use too much, but if it's a more affordable price, it might be worth getting. Now, I have pretty much just bought individual brushes from Morphe. And before I discovered the BK Beauty 206 brush and even the Rephr #1 brush, I was pretty much using the Morphe M433 brush all the time. I mean, I had probably 5 of these maybe on hand because I wanted to always have a clean one. Now, after using kind of the rougher ones, you can see, I don't know if these are technically made out of goat hair, but this particular brush, it is soft, but not quite as soft as the Rephr ones, not quite as soft as the BK Beauty ones. And same with the M504. This is still soft. This is synthetic bristle, but it's not quite as soft as the bristles that you're going to feel on the Rephr. But it's the perfect shape. I still pull this out. It's one of my go-tos, obviously, you know that. So this one, and then the M432. So this is my alternative. Actually, this is the brush that I used and used forever. And then Sigma came out with the E15. These are basically identical except for the differences of quality of the handle and the ferrule of the Sigma brush. But the M432, if you're looking for a more affordable option to that Sigma brush, the M432 is perfect. And again, the M504, this kind of continues to go slowly up in price. I think it's around $10, but again, can be offered at a discount sometimes on Ulta's website. So I do like Morphe brushes, but I don't feel like every brush is great quality or the same. It's definitely not the same bristle type or handle type. So I have not by any stretch of the imagination tried nearly even half of their line. So I can't speak to all of the current brush sets and everything. I can just speak to some of these individual brushes, and they are good quality. Obviously, they make they used to make my favorite blush brush, the E4, but they no longer do. But if you look on their website, they have a lot of different options with the same shape, just not the same hair used for the brush. So I do recommend Morphe brushes, but again, the ones I recommend are more the individual brushes just because I don't have experience with their sets of brushes. And each set has different types of bristles on the brushes, different handles, all of that. But all in all, it is a more affordable option. So if you're able to go into your Ulta store and shop in person, you can maybe check those out, see how they feel, see if that might be a good option for you. Thank you so much for watching. As I did in the first video, I will leave links to my previous brush videos. I'll leave links to that first brush video this time around if you missed that. I'm also going to leave links to my brush cleaning videos, because if you're going to spend the money to invest in new brushes, you want to make sure that you take care of them properly. And using Dawn dish soap regularly to clean your brushes is not the best thing to do. It seems like it might be at the time, but especially if you've got natural hair, they need a little extra love. And so I will show you, it's actually what I find to be the easiest way to clean your brushes. I also give some tips on how to remove stubborn, like those long wearing foundations can be a pain to get out of this brush. So I give you some tips with that. So I'll leave that link down below, along with links and discount codes if I have them, to Sigma, Rephr, BK Beauty, etc. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.